Good morning from Panhandle Outdoors, America's only daily outdoor TV show. Your source for fishing, hunting, and information for folks who enjoy the great outdoors. Now sit back, relax. It's Panhandle Outdoors.
Good morning, folks. Welcome to Panhandle Outdoors. I'm Winston Chester. Glad you're here this morning. Got a big show lined up. But first, our weather brought to us by Haney Technical Center at the corner of Baldwin and Highway 77. Going to be another hot one. We got some little bit of cool weather coming in, just a little bit. The thunderstorms are popping up, so be aware of that when you're outdoors. High today, 86, low 76, and water temperature is down to 85 degrees. Let's take a look at our river readings. The river is looking just like it did yesterday. It's a reading of 0.6. Actually, it's down a little bit. The Big River's at a 0.6. Folks, that's low. And the Choctawhatchee Caryville is at a 2.9, and that's low for the Choctawhatchee. Both rivers are just flat out. They're not going up or down, but just both of them really low. So you got your weekend fishing trip on the river. So be aware that there's going to be a lot of stumps sticking up, a lot of navigational hazards. So go slow. Don't go full speed up and down the river this weekend. Okay, let's take a look at our tide chart brought to us by Kent Forest Lawn Funeral Home and Cemetery. We're in neap tides. Next couple of days, next 3 days, just flat out no tidal movement. A little bit of a high at 9:36 and 11. When there's neap tides, you have a little bump, but looking at it overall, looking on the screen there, it's just pretty well flat. Marine forecast will be west-southwest at about 10 to 15. All right, that takes care of the marine weather. We'll come back with our special guest right now. Welcome back, folks, and welcome to Travis Bashford.
Good morning.
Good morning, Travis. We were sitting here, we're talking about so much outdoor stuff. We really need to get started because we've got so much to cover. But you asked about my tuna trip. I was telling you, then I was asking about a dove shoot here, and so we both got some information. So I shared a lot of mine yesterday, so let's share some of your stuff.
Well, when it comes to dove, I mean, at least what I've seen and heard, it was really, really slow. We had the first phase open up this past weekend on Saturday. We were going to try to hunt on our family's place up in Jackson County, and I went up last week and scouted the field and just looked and see, counting birds. We had, on one peanut field, we had 11 doves total. And then another one they were actually picking that day, so it was going to take them a little while to find it. But I don't know if it's because it's so hot or what. And then we came down here and worked it, and it was really slow. Went on some of the public fields where they had planted brown top millet, barely any birds there. Actually, the most birds that we saw open a weekend was on Deer Point Lake. People shooting them, when they come in to roost on those big cypress trees. Yeah. But it was just so slow, and I don't know if it's the heat or what, but one of the slowest phase ones I've seen.
Wow.
In a while. So that's kind of what's going on, what I've seen and heard about dove hunting here. And it opened up, like I say, last Saturday, and it's going to be open till October 24th, that first phase. And the important thing to remember on that first phase, no morning hunting. It's noon to sunset. Mm-hmm. So that's when your shooting hours are. And then once we open up with the second two phases, they run about a month each, November 12th through December 5th, and then December 12th through January 15th. That's half hour before sunrise until sunset, so you can hunt your normal migratory bird hours.
Dove hunting is a lot of fun, but if you sit down in that field and it's hot and they're not coming in, it's like fishing and not fighting.
I know.
It's just, especially got a kid with you, so
exactly.
Yeah, so it could be the heat and they just hadn't been pushed down yet or whatever.
And maybe that front you were talking about, maybe that'll push some birds down. I was talking to another FWC officer, and it's like when you're out there in that field and you're sweating, as long as you're shooting birds, it's okay. But when you're just sitting there, it can get boring.
That's right.
Anyways, but that's the story with doves. And then we also had early wood duck and teal that just went through 2 weekends ago. We had the wood duck, which was wood duck and teal the first 5 days, and the last 4 days were teal only. And on that, it was better than the doves. We saw a lot of hunters that were successful with wood ducks. We didn't see many teal at all. Really? Yeah, I worked that pretty much every day, and I saw a total of about 30 blue-winged teal, and 25 were in one flock. So it was kind of, and that's usually hit or miss, but we had low teal numbers too this year. So, and most of the stuff we worked some private and then up on Deer Point Lake.
Yeah, well, I heard the shots up at Deer Point. I guess you did too. They were shooting on open weekend and all.
Oh yeah.
And you can tell the duck hunters, if you do anything else, they're going to shoot early and then it's going to shut down.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. It's quick. Yeah. So, That's the thing. You can go shoot and be home for breakfast. But but the regular season, now the first phase of the regular season, that won't open until mid-November, and we'll talk about that some more when I come back on the show. So that's kind of what's going on with bird hunting. And then we've got, before I come on again and talk to y'all, it's going to be gray squirrel is going to open up on private land. Now, a lot of people, when they go squirrel hunting, it's always, I go to the river and go squirrel hunting. Whether you're going to Chalk-Tahatchee or Apalachicola, you got to look in those respective wildlife management area pamphlets and see those dates. But on private land, and a lot of people do go on private too, that's going to open October 8th for gray squirrel, and it'll run through March 5th.
That's right around the corner.
It's quick. Yeah, it's coming up quick. So hopefully that cool weather gets here, because when it's 93, it doesn't feel like squirrel hunting weather, does it?
No, it don't.
And then the last thing on these seasons I wanted to go over is deer dog training. That's going to be the last Saturday in October, October 29th through November 17th. One thing I wanted to mention on that is if you're training your deer dog, it falls under the definition of take, which would be capturing, taking, attempting to take, harassing, and then pursuing wildlife. So when you're pursuing with your deer dogs, you need to get a hunt license.
Okay.
And a lot of people don't know that. They're thinking, well, I'm not shooting the deer. I'm not, trying to hunt them. I'm just training my dogs. Get some puppies out there that they want to get trained up before the season starts. Make sure you have a hunt license.
That's an important point.
Yep.
Yeah. So you're chasing it, like I say, you're pursuing and all. That's the same thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. Fox hunting and all. So that takes care of all our season dates. The big thing coming up, of course, would be deer season. We'll talk about that next time. But Thanksgiving it's cool enough by then. Thanksgiving is the hunting time.
Oh yeah.
And that's really when I get turned on to hunting. But I know that we're going to talk about snapper next phase, or we got that coming up.
Yeah, we can talk about that right after the break if you want.
Okay, let's take a break. We're going to talk about snapper fishing during Thanksgiving. Okay, welcome back. So here with Travis, and we're getting all this. Make sure everybody knows. Our job here on Panhandle Outdoors is to inform and entertain our fellow outdoorsmen. And today we get a lot of information from Travis, a lot of good information. So let's continue.
Sure. Yeah, that's the thing. We want to let everyone know, and these seasons change a little bit. Sometimes bag limits change and stuff like that. Yeah. So we just want to get the information out because it's such a highly regulated activity. We want to try to educate everyone.
Yeah. And everybody don't go by the rules, do they?
No, they don't. We'll talk about that at the end of the show. But yeah.
Okay.
That was funny. But anyway, so we also have deer season coming up, and that's going to be archery. And we were just talking about in the break that it's bow or crossbows, all the same. We used to have a separate season specifically for crossbow. And now it's all going to be included. It's October 22nd through November 23rd in our zone. We're Zone D. We have the two management units, but the 22nd of October through November 23rd, and that's going to be antlered or antlerless deer by bow or crossbow.
Okay, that makes it a lot simpler for everybody.
Right.
It's
so
bow season. So
exactly, and the only thing you need to remember is if you're hunting with a compound bow, get your archery permit. If you're hunting with a crossbow, get your crossbow permit, get your deer permit, and your hunting license. And then if you're hunting on a management or public land, you need a management area permit too. So, but that's all in the pamphlet, and I won't go over that too much more. And then we have fall turkey. That's the same dates. Not too many people hunt them in the fall, but some people do, and it's going to be the October 22nd through November 23rd as well. So another thing too, the antler restrictions, that's going to stay the same. We're in Zone D, and Deer Management Unit 1, which is south of I-10 in the Panhandle, 2 points on one side or more, at least an inch long. And then Deer Management Unit 2, which is north of I-10 in the Panhandle, up where I hunt, is going to be at least 3 points on one side, an inch or more, or a main beam length of 10 inches or more. We talked about that, I think, last year. So a cow horn spike would be legal if he has a main beam length of 10 inches or greater.
Okay, so get that straight. Now we've been a couple of years now, so we're sort of getting used to that, 2 units in one area. So
right,
that's good.
And I think that they're learning more and more about managing our deer herd in the state of Florida. And with these antler restrictions, we're trying to save some of the yearling bucks. And then also we've seen a lot of northern states do the bow and crossbow together. Some people can't physically shoot the compound bow anymore, and then that allows them to hunt with a crossbow, and it's the same season and all that.
Yeah.
So kind of fair for everybody there. And then we can talk about, snapper over Thanksgiving. That's going to be weird, isn't it? So we had Hurricane Hermine come through, and it spun out there for, I don't know, it seemed like a week or so, and it stirred up the Gulf a lot. So our executive director, Nick Wiley, and Governor Rick Scott, they got together, did emergency reopening, I guess you could call it, in November for red snapper because we lost fishing days because of that storm. And I'll go over those dates real quick, and it is going to be included over the Thanksgiving holiday weekend too. So it's going to continue to stay open the Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays till the end of October. And then it's also going to open November 5th and November 6th. Okay, that's the first weekend there in November. And then also the 11th and 12th. That's Veterans Day weekend.
Okay.
And then the one over Thanksgiving is going to be November 25th, 26th, and 27th. And November 27th will be the last day of red snappers fishing in 2016. So another thing to remember on that Thanksgiving opening, November 26th is Saltwater License-Free Fishing Day.
Okay.
So that's a good opportunity to take someone out that normally might not go or doesn't want to buy a year-long fishing license, take them out and they can fish for free that day.
That's a good point right there. And what was that date again on the license-free?
The license-free is November 26th for saltwater. And so we were joking at the break. So you can deer hunt with a rifle, you can duck hunt, and you can also go offshore red snapper fishing all over Thanksgiving.
That's the new meaning of the word, the Panhandle Slam.
Exactly.
That's a different kind of slam.
That's the ultimate cast and blast there.
That's right, ultimate cast and blast.
But anyway, so that's pretty cool. They did that, and hopefully by then it should be cool. And as long as we don't have too much wind, people will be able to get out there and enjoy that. Another thing they did is on the offshore fishery, the last thing, I like talking about hunting this time of year, but this stuff's still going on and it always is evolving and changing, is greater amberjack. They did an emergency closure in state waters as well. In federal waters, they had closed that earlier in the year, and now FWC has mirrored that to stay consistent. It was a little later, so you got a little more time to harvest greater amberjack, but it closed September 10th, and it's going to stay closed through the end of the year.
They just found out a shortage of them and felt like they just wasn't
well, exactly. That came from on the federal level. They felt like their quota was met, so they did an early closure on it, and then it took FWC a little longer because we've got to do our rulemaking and stuff like that, and then they end up changing it because they want to keep everything as consistent as they can. And the real inconsistency we've seen is red snapper.
That's right, yeah.
But other than that, I mean, they try to keep everything triggerfish, amberjack, your grouper seasons and size limits and stuff like that, and baglands, they try to keep that the same.
Yeah, we talk about a red snapper here. Those guys in Louisiana, they don't have any regulations on red snapper. They got 3 miles in state waters, and they can fish 365 days a year.
Wow.
For red snapper, it's not that big a deal to them.
That's a lot different, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's different all on the Gulf Coast, and I know Texas, Louisiana, they're a little different. I know that Mississippi and Alabama, they try to stay closer to the federal regulations, and then Florida, we've kind of deviated from that. You know, it's just a difference of opinion, I guess you could say there. So.
Okay. All right, we're going to take a final break and come back with some very interesting cases of the month. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. So here with Travis Bashford, FWC, former Mosley High School alumni, and Jackson County roots. So that gives you pretty good. And now a new dad.
That's right.
How's that baby?
Oh, she's awesome.
Okay.
She's awesome.
All right, fishing game times for today, 10:55 a.m. to 12:55 p.m. And this morning, this evening, 11:18 to 1:18. So you got right around midday and then right around midnight. So I know guys that started kicking in on floundering. I'm seeing a few pictures coming in and just starting, and also a few gators being taken.
There is, yeah. We were talking about gator season, and we're in that last phase where if you haven't filled your tag on your assigned phases earlier in the year, then anyone can go here at the end if you have a tag to fill. So seen a few. I haven't seen many big gators, and I know more people are getting into it, and it takes a long time for those gators to get everyone wants to go kill a 10-footer or a 12-footer, and there's not that many of them. And, once they get that old, it's just like a big buck. They get pretty smart and pretty weary of humans. So.
Travis, I've got a theory on that because the last couple of years I haven't seen any really big gators brought in. I think a lot of the big gators were taken, and like you say, it takes so long, and the pressure on them is on them now.
Oh, it is.
And people are going all over the place during gator season, so it's going to be rare, I think, to get a real big gator. Like rare to get a big buck in public land.
Right, I agree completely.
That's my thinking.
And we've seen a lot of people go on the gators. They've started to go to the bays. They've been doing it for several years, and because there's so much pressure on the freshwater.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
All right, case of the month. We've got a couple, right?
We got two because I couldn't pick just one. These are two really good ones here in Bay County, and I'll go ahead and jump into it. The first one is going to be Officer Carl Hellett. He was on vessel patrol in Bay County. He observed 3 subjects snorkeling in the water around one of our area bridges. He noticed they didn't have a dive flag, so he pulled up and addressed the violation and said, "Hey, why don't you have a dive flag?" And they said, "Well, we didn't think we needed one," or whatever the excuse was. And he said, "Are you catching anything?" And they said no. Well, he noticed right by one of the snorkelers, he had a big black bag, like a catch bag, that you put scallops or crabs or things like that in, or fish. And he said, "What's in the bag?" He goes, "Oh, well, we do have some crabs." And he said, "Okay, well, let's take a look. Let me check your license and your crabs here." Well, he had some crabs. He had 18 stone crabs in the closed season. And a lot of them, the claws were undersized and stuff like that. You can't have the whole crab. Well, he gets them out of the water. And it was 2 of the guys that had that bag. And both of them actually had active warrants out for their arrest as well. One of them didn't extradite, one of them did. So he ended up arresting the one that had a warrant. And then he issued citations for possession of the stone crabs in the closed season, which that's going to open up soon. And then possession of undersized stone crabs and possession of whole stone crabs. So they were having a field day with those stone crabs in the closed season.
And where were they?
They were right there, actually, around the Hathaway Bridge, where they were getting them. Yeah. So
but they said they wouldn't really do much, right?
That's what they said.
Officer Hellett was not born yesterday.
Exactly.
It's not his first year on the job.
Exactly.
So
he did a
pretty
good
well
job.
Suspected it.
Yeah, he did a good job, and that was a real good case. And then, like I said, one of them ended up having a warrant, so he ended up going to jail. But it was a good job there. You never know what you're going to find. Someone just snorkeling right there in the bay, and then they were just really hitting that resource. So that is another thing I wanted to remind everyone. Stone crab, it opens to harvest October 15th, and the claws need to be 2 3/4 inches. You can go online. It's got a little picture and a gauge there, or in the pamphlet shows you how to measure them. And the limit's going to be 1 gallon per harvester per day on stone crabs. So good job to Carl. He did a real good job on that case. Now, the other one I was going to talk about, I got to brag on my beautiful wife, Nicole, because she's been off taking care of the baby, and she's on our FWC dive team. Well, she went out with the team. They were doing some night training at St. Andrews State Park, and she went out, was helping with some of the paperwork and stuff like that, keeping track of everybody's air and stuff like that as they were doing their training out there. And it was the FWC dive team for the Northwest region, and also they were doing some joint training with the sheriff's office. Well, she was sitting there, and it was late at night, and she was sitting on the beach while everyone was out there in the water doing, they were doing some search pattern and stuff like that on the training. And she noticed a male subject come by her. Now, it was dark, but in the silhouette, because she said she was sitting in the sand and was able to look back toward the city, and you've got the lights there from the marina in Panama City and all that, and was able to see a silhouette of a man that walked out and had 2 spear guns. And she says, well, it's illegal to spearfish in the state park there. So she let the guy get in the water and then went and told one of her officers that were on duty and said, "Hey, this guy's spearfishing in here." And they said, "Are you sure?" And, they couldn't believe it. And she goes, "Yeah, I'm sure." So they finished up with their training, went over there and actually confronted the individual. Well, by that time, he had 2 buddies with him. And one of them had speared a redfish, which you can't do. And then the other 2, actually, when they saw the FWC officers drop their spear guns and their fish and tried to get away, well, they were apprehended a short time after that, and they had a Goliath grouper. About 3 feet long. They said it was about 30-something pounds, which is small in a Goliath, but they're a prohibited species that you can't take at all. So ended up being a good case, and the funny thing was, one of the 3 guys that were out there, he had already been arrested for spearfishing in the state park. And, you know, when they're doing dive training, I mean, there were probably 7 FWC trucks lined up in that parking lot, not to mention 4 or 5 sheriff's deputy cruisers. And they're like, man, why are you doing this? Did you not see our trucks? And he said, well, I did see them, but my buddies really wanted to go, so he figured he'd chance it. But
boy, they ain't very bright.
No, so it was a good case. They ended up seizing their spear guns as evidence they were using the crime, and then they cited them for taking a prohibited species with the Goliath grouper, spearfishing in the state park, and then illegal method on redfish. You can't spear redfish, so.
Chances are they had been done that before. Did they have an underwater light, or were they just have
They did, yeah. They had an underwater light,
Yeah.
and I think they had done it before.
Yeah.
His previous violation, it was the officers involved too. I want to mention them. It was Carl Hellett again, actually. Officer David Brady and Officer Steve Wicker, and also Nick Price was out there as well. But you know, his citation before was in the daytime, but from the way they had it, you know, set up and all, we think that they had been there before, you know, at night doing it. And you know, a lot of times people think they can do that kind of stuff late at night. But fortunately, that night we were out there, and Nicole told me, she said, I want to get the assist on that case, even though I was off. She wants to get the assist.
So they will actually walk by about 7 FWC trucks and about 4 or 5 sheriff deputies' cars. And
Correct.
Kept on
And after that's when they walked by Nicole. But see, all the deputies and the FWC, they were off doing training, you know, down the way. And, you know, that's the thing. You can't spearfish there in the kiddie pool, around the jetties, and that's on the state park side, as well as it's also state park, the Shell Island jetty, the same way. So it was one of those ones where it's like, man, you know, you never know what you're going to get even when you're out there training. So.
How often do those guys train before they dive? Is it a monthly training sort of?
Correct. Yeah, they train once a month, but then they get called out usually more often than that. They do a lot of search and rescue, search and recovery. They'll dive, sometimes boating accidents if we have a boat go down. Sometimes our derelict vessel program, they'll go down and get information off those. So they stay busy.
Yeah. Mention real quick, only got a few seconds. Boat speed is just still bad. Had an accident down in Miami with a baseball player. Do you see a lot of boat speed out there?
I heard about that. Yes, we do, and you know, like we talk about usually in the spring and summer, just you know, a lot of times we don't have a speed limit on the water, so it's up to the operator to exercise caution and you know be prudent when they're operating and be careful. So
got to run. Thank you, Travis. Good job. Man.
Always enjoy it.
All right, man. Y'all do something good for your fellow man today. Have a great day, and God bless.
Thanks for watching America's only daily outdoor TV show, Panhandle Outdoors with Winston Chester, featuring hunting, fishing, and other activities and information to help you enjoy the great outdoors. Join us next time for Panhandle Outdoors.